The judge in the Liam Payne case has a thesis, which we are going to evaluate now. You guys, as we're reading this, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys agree with the judge's decision as it pertains to the Liam Payne case? Let's review this. I had reviewed this earlier in the live today, but I wanted to make sure that I reviewed it with you all, okay? So she breaks it down by several parts. In the resolution, the judge transcribed the 5 charges formulated by the prosecutor at the time of the investigation, whose details are as followed. So instead of writing their full names, they have their initials, all right? Keep that in mind. This is now picking up the news, so people are starting to talk a little bit about it. So EPD, hotel employee, Ezequiel Pereira is EPD. He is accused of having delivered cocaine for a fee once on October 15th, 2024 at about 3:25 a.m. and the next time on October 16th, 2024 at about 3:30 p.m. and 4 p.m. for Liam Payne to consume during his stay at the Casa Sur Palermo Hotel. Now, here's another person that's accused. BNP, which is the initials for Brian Nahuel Payes, the waiter. He is accused of having delivered cocaine for a fee on October 14th at about 3:24 a.m. for Liam to consume at the hotel, where he even accompanied him to room 310, checking in with him between 3:25 a.m. and 8:15 a.m. When he checked out, also, on the same day, he is accused of having delivered more cocaine for a fee for the accused to consume between 10:03 a.m. and 10:44 a.m., on which occasion Liam Payne went to the defendant's home. So Liam went to Brian's home, and Brian did say this in the very first interview that he had. So here's a clip of that.
Que también es muy fan de One Direction.
He says, I have a friend who is a fan of One Direction and wanted to meet him.
Él, creo que me dijo que sí, inclusive cuando yo me fui, él apareció afuera donde yo vivía, ingresó hasta la mitad del domicilio y hasta la mitad de la escalera. Yo no sé cómo él había entrado, pero quería que volvamos al hotel. Yo le dije que no podía, que tenía que trabajar, quedan creo que unos par de minutos.
Liam traveling in a taxi and then returning to the hotel. Okay. Now, we are going over to Rogelio Norris, the representative. Rogelio Norris is held criminally responsible for the death of Liam Payne through the execution of actions and omissions in the period prior to and contemporaneous that accumulated in Payne's falling from the balcony of room number 310, corresponding to the Casa Sur Hotel. Thus, the accused, Norris, failed to comply with his duties of care, assistance, and aid that he had towards Payne due to not only to a pre-existing legal duty, but also to specific functions of guidance and personal accompaniment previously coordinated and accepted by the relevance and activities of his profession, abandoning him to his fate, knowing that he was incapable of caring for him, knowing that accused suffered from multiple previous addictions to alcohol and cocaine, and having full knowledge of the state of intoxication, vulnerability, and helplessness in which he found himself. The manager, not manager, but really a manager, um, basically got charged because he was responsible for his managing of him. You know what's so interesting, right? And please note that they have changed the charges. He was initially being charged with abandonment. Now it's manslaughter, right? Because of his recklessness in his own duties and jobs that he had as a manager. Well, now with the change of charges, Rogelio Norris faces 1 to 5 years, whereas before he was facing up to 15 years. I think that's what was said. So I find this to be very interesting, right? For those that are wondering, well, he shouldn't have been responsible, I feel like Rogelio was very responsible. He knew the text messages, he knew where he could find substances, he knew that Liam Payne was not well. Okay, he could have taken Liam Payne to his house. He didn't take him to his house. So those that have like maybe not an understanding of this case, might see this differently. You know what I mean? Like I've seen some creators say, well, that's not his responsibility. It's not about that. It's about the fact that knew that his friend was struggling with something and he put him in situations that he was allowing him to have access to substances. Put very simple, y'all, very simple. If you are at a party and you happen to be sober and your friend is wanting to take the keys from you and they've been drinking, they've had way too many drinks, would you allow your friend to have the keys to that vehicle? To potentially kill themselves, kill somebody else, be pulled over, have all kinds of criminal stuff behind them, have to deal with any type of DUI, DWI, DWAI, whatever it may be. No, right? We would not, and this is not even me being responsible for the fact that my friend drank too much. That's not what this is about. It's about the simple fact that I know that my friend drank too much and they're about to get in a vehicle. And if I could stop that, then that is what I need to do in order to prevent an accident. Now, this is the interesting part. Argentina recognizes that Rogelio Nores had a pre-legal existing duty of care. Okay. So when the articles out there mentioned that Rogelio Nores was acting like a manager, taking calls, doing the most, setting things up, that was that pre-legal existing piece, right? Like he was a manager. As much as he wants to deny it on TMZ and whatnot, he was a manager. Okay. Gila Martin, who was the hotel manager, she was present in the lobby at the time prior to the events and noticed the state of health of Liam Payne, who was unable to stand due to the consumption of various substances. The manager was in charge of the establishment and allowed, at least by omission, for Payne to be taken to his room moments before his death. In the room number 310 of Casa Sur Palermo Hotel, there was a balcony that, given the detailed situations, was a source of risk for Payne. The conduct that Gila Martin should have carried out was to keep him safe in the area without sources of danger, in company and until medical care was provided to him. So plenty of moments for emergency services to have been called, but instead I believe they were calling Rogelio Nores. Esteban Grassi, the hotel reception manager, who we heard was the one that made the 911 call, was present in the lobby at the time prior to the events and noticed the state of health of Liam Payne, who was unable to stand due to the consumption of various substances. Esteban led a group of 3 people who dragged Payne to his room moments before his death. In the room number 310 of Casa Sur Palermo Hotel, there was about that, given the detailed pictures, was a source of risk for Payne. The conduct that should have carried out was to keep him safe in an area without sources of danger, in company until he could be provided with medical care. Further reads, I maintain that the person named tried to leave via the balcony of the place where he was left because the forensic expert noted that he did not lose his balance. This is how the fall occurred, explained the magistrate. So I guess they interviewed a forensic expert, okay? And the forensic expert said that he tried to leave, but he didn't lose his balance. That's an interesting way to put it, given that, like, if he's intoxicated, wouldn't he be losing his balance? I guess I'm confused by this. Let's keep reading. The supply of drugs. In the case of Ezequiel Pereira hotel employee, Bernard said he shared the prosecutor's theory that the accused provided cocaine to Payne for a fee. Okay. Based on the testimony and analysis of the footage, he mentioned that the accused received $100 from the victim in exchange for buying drugs from him, and that on another occasion, the British musician sent a car to the defendant's home in Buenos Aires district of Lomas de Zamora to bring in more narcotics. So, based on this, okay, if we are to hear the theory that the judge is saying, okay, he paid him $100. Where did he get this $100? Because it's my understanding that, Liam at one point was asking for his money, because he didn't have access to his card or other, medication that he needed and whatnot. So how did he receive this $100? Did he get it straight from Liam? And apparently he was sending cars to Ezequiel Paredes' home. So there was nothing special about Brian Baez because, he had done it to Ezequiel as well. Anyways, let's keep reading this. Regarding the waiter, Brian Nahuel Baez, who in his defense admitted having given him drugs to Payne, but stated that he did so to spend time with him. The judge also agreed with the prosecutor's thesis that the delivery of the cocaine was for money. Okay. So now Brian is actually admitting to having given drugs to Liam, because Brian's defense from the start was no, I never did that. I don't know what that is. I mean, he's got this like deer in the headlights look in his eyes. Never. No. And when he was asked by the journalist, why were you sending pictures of drugs if you weren't going to share it with them, if you guys weren't if you weren't dealing? It's just something that you do. By the way, Brian is on his social media. His attorney gave a huge little statement about how this is a witch hunt, and everybody that supports Brian Baez is also behind him. There are people that support Brian who basically say he had nothing to do with this death. Maybe that might be the case, okay? But he also lied, okay? And, he ran different stories here online, and he wasn't truthful. He wasn't, all right? Let's keep reading this. So the judge also agreed with the prosecutor's thesis that the delivery of the cocaine was for money. To do so, he evaluated the chats between the musician and the defendant that talked about it, the hotel footage that captured the waiter's arrival at the hotel in the early hours of October 14th and his departure almost 5 hours later, and the fact that Payne asked for money at the reception desk while the defendant was in his room. So Liam had to get money from the reception desk. So they were holding his money. I really believe that they were organizing something to put him in a conservatorship, because I just don't get it. He had no access to his money. It's interesting. In this case, it was proven that both Ezequiel and Brian supplied cocaine in exchange for money to Liam Payne, supporting the prosecutor's accusations. The judge's thesis. Okay, so this is where we get to the judge's thesis, and we are going to go right to it. Okay. In the grounds of the indictment, and after analyzing and validating the evidence collected by the prosecutor, the judge developed her own thesis on what happened to the former singer of the One Direction band. The judge stated that it was proven by the testimonies gathered by the prosecutor that Liam had a history of addiction. In this regard, she explained that he was seen demanding cocaine and alcohol by the staff of Casa Sur Palermo Hotel, and that the autopsy performed on his body showed that the death was caused by multiple trauma and internal and external bleeding, and that the presence of cocaine and alcohol in large quantities was confirmed. Now, on August 16th, moments before 5 p.m., Payne was unable to care for himself. The judge noted, pointing out as evidence of this the photograph incorporated into the case, which corresponded to the footage taken by a camera in the hotel lobby, where at about 4:54 p.m., the musician was seen unconscious and being dragged by 3 people. The way he was being handled shows a state of vulnerability, the judge said, referring to the situation of the hotel manager and the receptionist, stating that bringing Payne up in that state to room 310, where he was staying at, was creating a legally disproved risk to his life. Payne's unconsciousness was altered, and there was a balcony in the room. The proper thing to do was to leave him in the safe place and with company until a doctor arrived. The people responsible at the hotel and the day were the manager, Griselda Martin, the head of reception, and Esteban Grassi. When analyzing the hotel security camera recording presented by the prosecutor, the judge also highlighted that thanks to them, it was possible to observe that the head of the reception, Esteban Grassi, is the one who led Payne to be dragged to his room, and that the images are compelling. When this defendant and the manager, Griselda Martin, are seen moments before 5 p.m. in the hallway of room 310, and that minutes later the victim was found dead in the restaurant patio. Given the results of the autopsy, Payne's state of vulnerability was evident. They've never been made public, right? Like the autopsy report or anything. I do wonder what Liam Payne's dad and family plan to do with this. But none of this is public, so we're kind of left to, I guess, assume a lot of things at this point. Payne wanted to leave through the balcony. In another section of the ruling, the judge mentioned that according to her hypothesis, Payne did not faint when he fell into the void, but that in his state of intoxication due to the poly drug use, he tried to leave the room through the balcony and thus fell. Okay, this sounds to me like a script or an excerpt out of TMZ's documentary. Especially, it's interesting because we have heard way before all of this that there was CCTV footage of him falling off of this balcony. I remember I heard this somewhere. The people said it too. There was Argentina networks saying this. So did he fall? Did he get pushed? Or what had happened? Was he conscious or unconscious when he fainted? Here it says Payne did not faint. So he was awake, right? Then you have TMZ showing these fingerprints. This balcony doesn't look like anything like the balconies that they've shown. But I don't know. Y'all, I could be completely off about this. I maintain that the person named tried to leave from the balcony of the place where he was left because the forensic experts noted that he did not lose his balance. This is how the fall occurred, explained the magistrate who, to support this theory, mentioned an extension of the report of the forensic medical and an ocular inspection carried out on December 5th at the Casa Sur Palermo Hotel, in which the magistrate herself participated. So the magistrate went to the Casa Sur Palermo to do her own inspection? That's interesting. I believe that Griselda Martin and Esteban Grassi, so the manager and head of reception, did not act maliciously in relation to the singer's death, but that they were imprudent in allowing him to be taken to the room and taking him there respectively. They created a legally disproved risk, and Payne's death is the concretization of that risk. The named man tried to leave via the balcony in the state hotel. He fell into the void and he died, she concluded. According to the forensic experts, Payne fell into the hotel restaurant's patio without any sign of defense, which caused multiple injuries to his body, especially to his head after hitting the concrete support of an umbrella directly. Here's the problem that I have with this. Were there any injuries to his arm from the TV, right? Because apparently he had hit the TV according to the prostitutes, right? And this whole report, I have yet to see it mention the watch, because that's also, I think, a piece of this puzzle too. But that's not even being mentioned here. Okay. According to the forensic experts, Payne fell into the hotel restaurant patio without any signs of defense, which caused multiple injuries to his body, especially to his head, after hitting the concrete support of an umbrella directly. Payne's consciousness was altered, and there was a balcony in the room. The proper thing to do was to leave him in a safe place with company until a doctor arrived. Okay. The situation of the companion Regarding Rogelio, who assisted Payne during his stay in Buenos Aires, the judge held that he is responsible for the crime of negligent homicide as the perpetrator, given that he had assumed a position of guarantor in front of the family of the deceased. So that email where he's like, talking about medication, he knew a lot. Okay, he was involved in the ins and outs of Liam Payne. Based on testimony statements and the analysis of communication and messaging chats presented by the prosecutor, she added that it is evident that this defendant was Liam Payne's contact for the hotel. Yeah, I mean, the reason why Liam Payne went to Casa Sur was because of Rogelio Norris. And there's been a lot of speculation about Rogelio Norris' connection to the hotel and everything. So, yeah, I would agree. She explained that Rogelio was present at the hotel moments before the dangerous situation occurred, and this is supported by the images that show him leaving Casa Sur at about 1611. 1611 would be 411. Okay, so 411. Some 50 minutes before the incident. I believe that at that point, given the results of the autopsy, Payne's state of vulnerability was evident. Norris could not trust that the rest of the hotel staff would act appropriately. The magistrate assessed beyond the continuity of the investigation. What it does not address is why change the charges. Abandonment gives Rogelio less time. Why not charge him as a drug supplier or dealer? But I guess there is no communication with a fee, so keep that in mind. I mean, but based on the communication, it sounds like he was helping him get those drugs. I don't know. Like, I'm a little off by this. So, hotel staff and Rogelio Norris are looking to 1 to 5 years, so everybody's aware. And then the dealers, Brian Paez and Ezequiel, are looking at like what? I think it was somewhere along the lines of like 4 to 15 or something like that, 15 years. This is interesting. In justifying the criminal classification, the ratings, in justifying the criminal classification chosen for the 3 defendants for negligent homicide, the judge explained that the situation of the defendants can be treated jointly, although each one must answer as the author of their act, given that there is no co-authorship in the negligent crime. The way in which they have created the risk situation, which resulted in Liam's death, is different. In this specific case, I do not consider that Rogelio, the manager, or Griselda, or Esteban planned and wanted Liam's death. The judge is saying she doesn't think that these 3 specific individuals, Rogelio, Griselda, and Esteban, planned or wanted Liam to die. They did not imagine the outcome, but they created a legally disproved risk. Griselda created this in her role as a manager of the establishment by allowing Payne to go up to his room 310. Esteban did so by leading the group of people who took Payne to the aforementioned room. What happened was unforeseeable. In the case of Rogelio, the representative, the manager, he should have consulted a doctor given the commitment made to the family of the deceased. He should have done this without relying on what the hotel employees could do. Finally, the judge considered that the 3 people who are being prosecuted have contributed, although not in a planned manner, to create a risk that resulted in Payne's death, whether by action or omission. Precautionary measures. In justifying the pretrial detention of the hotel employee and the waiter, the judge took into account the expected sentence for the crime for which they were prosecuted, which does not allow a suspended sentence. Regarding the 3 defendants charged with manslaughter who were not given preventative detention, the magistrate indicated that there were no procedural risks, that they have roots, that the sentence does allow for a suspended sentence. In any case, the prohibition against Rogelio, a U.S. citizen, was upheld in order to guarantee his permanence in the country. So he is to stay in Argentina, I guess, until his sentence is finished, right? 1 to 4 years. Now, while we were live, my wonderful, beautiful sub Maggie let me know of an article that just dropped through TMZ. TMZ basically said Liam Payne, psychiatrist, you need higher level of care. Dropped singer as a patient before his death. So it sounds like this is what they're alleging, that the psychiatrist basically dropped Liam Payne because she couldn't treat him. Liam Payne was advised by his psychiatrist before his death he needed a higher level of care than she could provide. In a letter filed with the court in Argentina and obtained by TMZ, the One Direction star psychiatrist informed the British singer in September she could no longer provide psychiatric care for him. As the psychiatrist put it, she decided to stop treating Liam after careful consideration and assessment, but advised him to continue with the treatment plan, which included taking medication only as prescribed, avoiding heavy drinking while on medication, weekly therapy, meeting with a primary care doctor, and further testing. She urged Liam to regularly speak with a therapist to process his depression and trauma, and emphasized that it was vital for the management of these issues. The therapist provided a list of doctors and rehab centers she believed could better assist Liam. She added, "Thank you for your understanding, and I wish you the very best in your continued journey towards mental health and well-being." And by the way, this video specifically is coming up on my algorithm again. I think it's coming up on a lot of people's algorithms where he says, "I'm back." It's just a sad situation. But he had announced an update on YouTube that he had been at least 6 months sober. Liam Payne experienced a relapse the next year. Quick little update on what TMZ has reported. Now, apparently, in this email, they're not saying it here, but this might have been the email that Rogelio Nores, the manager, not manager, was included in. So, and I believe this was part of their, case files. Listen, I need to hear from you. Do you all believe that justice was served? Do you believe that there should be more charge? I just have so many questions. And I don't know if I'm satisfied. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if I agree with the prosecutor's theory, but I'm not there. I have a lot of questions. Do y'all agree with this? Where do you guys stand with this? Put it all in the comments, okay? Because we will continue to talk about this. And listen, do you notice how everybody's now getting the news and we delivered the news before it was delivered to the mainstream media? It's because us YouTubers, we are ahead of the game. Yes, we are. I will see you guys on the next one. Hit the like button. Bye, guys.